just maybe, this natural health and wellness thing and maybe divine healing, maybe they're both the same thing. Like maybe somehow they both actually fit together. And on one side, what you see is people that are arguing that if we don't make wise decisions and if we don't walk in health and wellness and if we don't do our part to really make some good decisions with diet and exercise and supplements and nutrition, if you don't do that, then these people say, well, there's really not much hope for you. On the other side of the equation, you have people that are seemingly on the other side of the fence saying, well, if Jesus doesn't break in and if he doesn't do something and if a miracle doesn't happen and if the kingdom doesn't come near, then really there's no hope. And so you have like what seems to be two counteracting points, and you say, well, who's right? And the answer is maybe they're both right. Like maybe unless you choose to make some wise decisions, there's not a lot of hope, and we'll talk about that. And at the same time, unless the power of God breaks through, well, hey, maybe like that's a necessity too, and maybe these things aren't at odds. See, what's odd to me is in the Old Testament days, when people had a physical ailment, the first thing they did was they actually went to the priest. Now, it wasn't that everything was a spiritual thing at all, but what they were really realizing was that we're really kind of not disconnected people. Like we're people that have a body, a soul, and a spirit, and these things all work together. In the New Testament days, one of the first instructions that the leaders of the church gave to people who were sick was to go see the elders of the church. And I would remind you that Jesus himself, even when he healed lepers, he often sent them to the priest to confirm that the healing had happened. But think about the ramifications of all of that, because today, if you run stats, in fact, I've got it in your workbook on page 10 there. If you look at it, there was a popular poll that was run just asking people, hey, where do you get medical advice, or where do you go if something might be wrong with you that you need fixed? The stats are something like this. 50% of the people call their primary care physician. That's great. It's incredible that we have doctors that we can have a relationship with, that we can actually get on the phone. 31%, catch this, rely on what they get in the media. 5% talk to a relative or friend, 5% self-help book, 4% learn it in schools or courses, 2% talk to a pharmacist. What's odd about this is no one that made the list in any kind of recognizable proportion anyway, no one ever consulted the Creator. No one consulted a prophet. No one consulted a pastor. No one consulted a priest. And it's not that a medical doctor is something we shouldn't go to. We should. But if God's the Creator and if He's the source of all healing, like at some point you'd think that He might have made the list. So it was only in the 20th century that we started disconnecting physical from spiritual. We started going for this diagnosis instead of looking at the whole total person.